go here. So thank you so much for being here. Today's topic is on art and architecture and how they influence each other and how they really have been both timeless in impacting the lives that we have in enjoying art. So I'm going to go ahead and give a quick introduction to our panel. All right, y'all, settle down now.
I see a lot of laughing out there.
No laughing. They're not laughing at us, are they? No. Okay. So a special guest today is my good friend Craig Wickersham, who is he is an interior designer and architect and extraordinary art collector and a good friend. And we're happy to have him here sharing on our panel. Next to me is Carlos Page, whose work is right behind him. And he's, everybody loves Carlos, of course. And then we have Ryan Schmidt, whose work is over here. We're going to let you jump up and talk about it if you want. But this is an extraordinary panel. We had one other person who couldn't join us, so we have his work represented. But as always, I like to start by having each of the artists and speakers just give us a brief background, who you are, how you got into art, and what your forte is. So Ryan, let's start with you.
Hi guys, good afternoon. How you doing? My name's Ryan Schmidt. I'm a sculptor. I started out as a painter, went through photography, ceramics, printmaking, got into bronze, switched to stainless about 22 years ago. So it's been a wild ride and quite an adventure. But that's kind of my intro to the art world.
And his bright, shiny, fabulous work is a reflection of his personality. So glad to have you.
Thank
you. Is working? Yes. Hello everybody. I'm Carlos Page, and I started working doing sculpture work pretty much about 30 years ago, and first in San Francisco, California, and in New York, and then for the past almost 13 years here at the show. And my media is steel primarily, but I also work with wood and concrete. So all of these materials, of course, related to architecture big time, and indeed architecture is one of the things that got me into art, because I always study architecture as it's where we live, where we nest, and then in a more grandiose scale, it's been from the Roman times, and if not earlier, significant in our everyday.
All true. Fabulous. Thank you. And Craig, I've known you for how many, like 5 years maybe?
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah. So let's hear a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate seeing all these happy, smiling faces and art lovers, of course. So a little history about my background is, as a child, I started designing houses. I did my first house when I was 13. It was under construction when I was 14. I was fortunate enough to live very close to San Simeon, which is William Randolph Hearst's castle in California. So I got to spend a lot of time there, and of course the magical art collection that he has. A lot of inspiration as a child growing up through. My father's a painter, and you just get absorbed into the world of it, and the architecture and the interiors and everything became a part of me. And that's kind of where I started and kept going. Thank goodness, right?
Yeah. And you are art collector, art lover, and you bring many, many clients in here. We'll talk a little bit about that and how art really pulls together the whole project, I would say. So each of you gentlemen who are with us, you work in obviously three-dimensional and very hard-edged materials, but you make them look soft and fluid. So Ryan, tell us more about your stainless steel and how you build what you build, and how you also do the cast pieces as well.
Sure. Okay, so I have two main processes. One I learned through the lost wax method, basically, with the bronze processing, and that's making something in clay, producing a mold to do a wax, and then another mold for to drop out the wax, and fill that with a molten metal, basically, which you'll see is a small piece to the pedestal to the left of Craig. That's a solid cast. That's a pour. basically. And the other process, nobody taught me this, I just kind of figured it out. It was taking 2 flat planes of sheet metal and welding, tacking one side together and then stretching the metal into a compound bend. And so my first template for this piece is this big heart. I've made it on a smaller scale, so I'm going to feel pretty comfortable to do it on a little bit larger. But I'll take another plane and stretch that into a triangular form for both the curves. And that will, then I'll wrap a third piece on, and a lot of sanding and polishing to put the mirror finish on it.
And there was one piece of architecture in particular that had a heavy influence on what you do today. Happens to reside in St. Louis. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the Gateway Jefferson Memorial, the St. Louis Arch. I've visited it several times. Although it's in a triangular form, it was not stretched in a position. They were prefabricated equilateral triangles. But they had a lot of influence early on. Obviously the sheer size of it, 630 feet tall. It was pretty significant as a teenager going to see that.
Have you ever been up inside of it?
Yeah, seveul times. I've ridden up inside.
How many people live in the arch?
That's a cool building.
One time was enough for me. I was like, wow, small. But that really has influenced, that impacted the way you see your work.
Sure. Oh, the way I'd like to see it.
He likes monumental size, which we'll talk more about. What other architectural buildings have impacted you and you, Carlos?
Well, I had the fortune of living in a number of great big cities that each had its own share of examples of architecture. Starting with Buenos Aires itself, is French and Italian and Spanish architecture from the 1800s. Great buildings, beautiful towers. That was a very big inspiration. Then in San Francisco was a completely different thing, but it has its unique architecture also. And then of course New York. But I continue with big cities. You can name a number. Like Chicago is an incredible city about architecture. It seems like every architecture of renown is there somewhere, has a building. And personally, again, I go to Madrid today, has a whole section of buildings, like Foster and many others there. And I don't know. I just think that for me it was always architecture and art is kind of I consider architecture an art form. And indeed, the first caves at the prehistorical times, people went and did some drawings on the carving on the rocks, and so it's always been tied. The Romans planned their big buildings with a lot of considerations, aesthetical considerations to engage those visiting in certain spiritual experience, which is what art really takes us ultimately. And so it's hard to say, but for example, the Brooklyn Bridge in New York there are documentaries about it, and it's just a transcendental experience. It's changed our vision and our outlook on things. And there's not a specific one that I will name, but in general, I love it in every way because it's involved us so much.
And absolutely, and architecture and art both play a big role in defining a sense of place. And I think all of us can think of a city, as Carlos was mentioning, that have iconic buildings or structures or collection of buildings. The boat tour in Chicago, of the architectural boat tour, if you haven't ever done that when you go to Chicago, it's fascinating because one of the things they talk about is how the buildings are actually designed to complement each other or pay homage to each other, and it's fascinating. So really, when we think about way back to the cavemen, we have surrounded ourselves with art and the feeling of the building How do you relate to that?
Well, I guess for all of us here, normal mortal humans, I always go back to the ancient places like Egypt and Middle East, where we see some of the first architectural forms, and they're decorated with sculptures. They have animals, they have homage to our relationship to each other as well as our relationship to our environment. So you see entire religions kind of in Egypt that form out of that relationship, and human-like, what I'd say, bird heads, Horus or these other gods. These are things that were in the minds of us, and we continue to do that, and we paint them and we sculpt them and we create them. We've gone into a much more abstract world today, and we've got so much more to share, and some of that's just our emotions. So we've seen this evolution through time, and now we're seeing these amazing pieces, whether they're small or large, and I don't know if I can go down this road, but when I'm talking to clients and people like yourselves, when we're doing homes and remodeling or building from ground up, we consider art as part of the primary focus in the homes. And we have clients where the walls, need to be considered for scale, for textures, for various pieces that are going to be appropriate. And it brings out an emotion. I mean, the people get we get very influenced by this art. So some of the artwork that we relate to, we're relating to the artists. In many cases, you're going to love a certain kind of artwork, and it comes to show that you love that artist as well. You have this relationship. So it's a very relatable thing where we, as humans, want to connect. I just love that aspect of the art form. And from an architect's point of view, I'm designing buildings with that in mind. When people hire me to remodel their houses, we're looking at their existing art. They've had it for 20 years or 10 years, we don't know. And then we say, well, would you consider something different? And it just changes their whole personality. They look at a new piece, we put this one over here, we move that one there, so moving things around, and it just brings that life right back. I love it.
I think we say frequently up here how interesting it is to rearrange your artwork periodically. It's like having a whole fresh new look with all the same things. And I like to have my artwork play with each other and pair things together that play well together. So that's really fun. And I know I showed a picture earlier of Leonardo da Vinci's staircase that he designed. What was that, 1513? I don't have a way to show you here, but it's in his chateau in France. Has anyone been there? Anyone? You've been there.
I saw the photo. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I could hold my phone up, but...
It's beautiful. It's all carved out of stone, and it's a beautiful example of how Da Vinci was thinking, and an expression that then changed architectural form.
That took a few minutes to do, too. You want to hold that up for the... Oh, you can pass my phone around. Ignore if you get any text messages, but I think what fascinates me so much too about art is the length of time. And you look back into pyramids and the bridges and the Empire State, but how did they do that without all the technology we have and the dedication that it took? So good things take time, and you both do a lot of commission work in addition to your beautiful pieces you make. And a common question that people ask is, how long did that take you to make? And it's not necessarily, I read a great quote, people won't know how long it took you, they'll know how well you did it. And some of your works can take, months to create.
I think in my case, it's often, it has happened a number of times during my time here at the show that people come to me, tell me, when we didn't have a home, we were planning a home, and we spent an evening or working in it, and then a few years later, the home is ready, and they call me, and they have it's amazing. It's humbling and an honor, but it's a beautiful thing.
And
they come together.
Yes, and you have a lot of reclaimed pieces. reclaimed wood and such. And I know there was a staircase, maybe not quite as elaborate as Leonardo, but I know we had a client who commissioned you to do this staircase.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a part of it. It wasn't the full thing, but it was a home in the Deer Lodge or something, a place in Montana. Yeah, and well, but you mentioned recycling materials, and yeah, for example, I got a bunch of wood many years ago when I was still based in Hoboken, New Jersey, from a building in New York that was being gutted, and I was able to purchase over time like 50 24 feet long floor joists. The incredible thing is I've been using that wood ever since. I'm kind of out of it already, but and the important thing is that wood with this. I have a couple in the wood, but has an energy.
Yes.
From the time, the old nails, the cuts, from the chiseling that they did, this is a lot of energy that translates. Same thing with steel or working with all steel, the pitting, the weathering, from posture, all of that add immensely to the work in the end. So whenever possible, I love to use materials that are recycled.
And your work has both an organic and industrial feel to it, which is great, and it can complement so many different home designs. And I know homes that have your work mixed with very traditional works of art, and again, just having that eye to blend and balance the pieces. How do you master that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because part of it's, from my point of view, I talk to the people and I listen to what people love. And it takes a lot of questioning to find out what does a person really connect with. Because it's very easy to just come across and say, hey, get out of my way, I'm going to put your house together, but that's not really the right way to do it. Part of our goal as a designer and an architect and an artist, artists have a responsibility. They respond to themselves, and then they produce for other people to see and enjoy, right? So that's their responsibility. It's my understanding as we go through that process that you connect with something. Oftentimes my clients will say, I didn't even think of that. It's because you're listening. We're listening, and the artists here, for the decades that some of you have been coming, you hear what people are saying, you hear their comments, and you're responding, and that evolution gives even better quality art, which is one of the things I've noticed in these types of, you can go to a sterile gallery and never meet the artist. We've all been there. When I meet the people that are here working on their pieces and I get to know them, there's a real connection. And my clients, they come here and they feel, they really do. It makes a big deal. And we have a success story with so many of the artists here because of that. And then they come in and the artists will go to the house, and then they get even more inspiration because they're seeing how the people live, and we get this relationship. So that may have been a little too much information.
No, it's so that I'm glad we have that recorded, because that embodies really what the celebration of fine art is all about, is that connection. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about how much the artists listen and feel, and sometimes they hear the notes in between when a person doesn't know how to express what they want, and then you can create that and that emotional connection, and then it makes the work that you have at your home even more rich and more wealthy in terms of how you feel about it. So Brian, there's so many things about your work, the bending of the steel, it's very physical. Both of you men do very physical work. Also, we have a lot of different size scale. You have these smaller pieces here, and we have, how big is the one out in the...
It's almost 15.
15 feet. And how high would you like to go?
St. Louis art style. I mean, yeah, that's, I gotta dream big, of course, you know, right? But, you know, earlier today I'm thinking about what I was gonna talk about when I get up here. So, of course, I Google definition of architecture. Well, there's a couple definitions, and in both of them, they have the word art. And so they're referring to the art, the build of a structure that's going to be habitable, and or the architecture, meaning the design process, the art of the structure of something, or the build of something, not necessarily to a structure that we habit, but just the process. So. From my understanding, art and architecture certainly have a common woven thread that's basically, they go together. They when you create this living experience of a home, and then you put focal points or things of interest from the person who has a home, you create this overall experience.
Sense of place, the sense
Correct.
of who we are. Carlos.
To add to what you're saying, I think both architecture, art at its best, point us to the future, give us today, but it's forward thinking, it's innovative, it's kind of a
scientific.
Sets a path ahead for it's an adventure. We're presenting new. Architects play with forms. There's never been, the forms today in today's cities. The buildings are going crazy. And in art, we are also creating things that weren't there before. So it's like I think it helps, not to speak too big, but humanity is one of the most beautiful things. I mean, both architecture and art. In that regard, it's just help us move us forward and give us comfort, confidence. It's our for everybody to see and transcend oneself, because the architecture is for all to see. Our art is for is out there and makes the world a better place.
And just to add to that, it's across the world at all times in history. When we look at cultures, ancient cultures, and their architecture and how they lived and how they embellished their lives, the beaded clothing, the jewelry. I mean, they're still finding jewelry that's 4,000 or 5,000, sometimes 6,000 years old, that are artful pieces that our species, our cultures around the world, China, Indonesia, everywhere. And that's what is kind of who we are. We're all, a bit of us are artists. I think some of us are a little more artists than others, but we all have that quality inside us, and that's why we can relate to certain things. We see a beautiful painting or a sculpture or a piece of fabric often, there's things that just go crazy. We're all artists, and we connect to that. And it scoops you up. It just takes you away. And that's why sometimes we'll talk to someone, they walk in, they just fall in love, literally in love with the art. And some people connect with certain pieces and colors and everything. I mean, it's just fascinating. I love to watch it. I mean, we bring people here, we walk through the facility here. I call it a facility, but it's really a gallery. And you just watch their faces just light up. Oh my gosh, I love that. You just go through it.
It's true. I mean, we can tell. I can be walking by on my way to write a message to somebody or something, and I can see, oh, that's going home. It's a physical change. You see, literally, people will, their eyes light up.
They come back year after year because there is a connection. We are all artists. We all appreciate it. We have fallen into kind of a disconnect on our big scale society, but on a personal level, if it's a car, a lot of men are car collectors, and that's an art form.
Oh, yes.
Building cars, making cars, buying cars, all of that. There's dresses and jewelry and all these other components, artwork, sculptures. In our architecture theme, which is what we're talking about today, and in general, that's my responsibility, is to bring art into people's lives. And it's one of the best, it's going to choke me up, but it's one of the best investments you can make, because it's with you your whole life. And we have clients that carry their artwork around. And we're doing houses where we have huge collections, and we design the house to make it work for their artwork, sculptures, paintings, photos, everything. And I'm just so honored to help them. I really am.
Because that expresses who they are and what lights them up.
It adds to everything. Their family, their friends. People come in and everyone's enjoying it.
Yeah. It's true, and jewelry, of course, is an art form, and Isabel Basilico was an architect before becoming a jeweler, and one of her things she liked about jewelry is it's a much faster design cycle, and you don't have to go through permitting, which is always a plus. And I always tell people, jewelry is art you can wear, and there's always room for that. But we also can make room for the big stuff. Right?
Well, and it's all jewelry in a sense.
It is. It's accessorizing.
Yeah. It's all about how we embellish our lives and make our lives better. And an architectural theme that we're talking about today, these guys nail it. We have, the thing about Carlos and the thing about Ryan, I'm in an architect mode. They work in all of my houses. They work from the old world to the new modern stuff. So we have a very broad way of fitting it in. In particular, the architectural materials that you guys are using, which I love. Yeah. So that makes it even better. Yeah.
And so, what kind of tools do you use to create your work? What are the most important tools, like the hands or the torch or the mind?
Well, the mind comes first. But then, once you resolve whatever is happening, then you go into action. And in particular, I use comparatively few tools. A torch is very important. A welder is an old-fashioned stick welder most of the time. A lot of grinding, forging with the torch, and the anvil is another tool that I use quite a bit, and a hammer with it, and then a few more things. But that's basically it for me. My studio is some guys that friends, colleagues come over and they say, "Where are your tools?"
No plasma cutter. It's all hand forged, right?
Yeah, so those are the tools I use the most. I'm thinking some hand tools or that.
And you will be doing some workout. Carlos and Ryan are both at the far end of the tent over here. Troy, who's not with us today, is over on this side by Kathleen Hunt, and he was an architect and now and also an artist, and his work is fantastic. But I know you both are going to have working areas set up. And by the way, we have a wonderful quarterly publication called The Art Connection that Beth and I work on each quarter. And our first issue, we featured Craig. Wasn't it our first issue? Because we love how he recognizes the joy of art and how it enhances people's sense of place. Carlos's studio was featured in our most recent feature, and they are available on the front table over there. The upcoming issue that we're working on now will feature Ryan's studio. So we sort of took the Art Discovery Series platform and we moved it into a print format, which is also digital, all available on our website. But we have the beautiful temporary working studios here, but some of these guys, we really can't have them do their work here because it's a little too much. But we're doing our best to give you the behind the scenes tour to how they create what they do in their spaces. And again, the idea of every piece of art here enhances your sense of place, but there's something about, you're a musician too, but one of the things that you haven't really talked about, Carlos, is some of your concrete work, and he has a series that you call The Trees, that are good indoors, outdoors, and that's what's great about these exact mediums. Maybe not your wood pieces, but it can live indoors, it can live outdoors, and your beautiful series of trees.
They're missing in action. I have to make some more.
Oh, well,
I don't have one here, but...
I'm always here to inspire them to work harder and make more. And and the table, too, functional, so you're decorative and functional.
Concrete.
But that's
I
concrete.
do have a couple of benches and some pedestals with concrete, but again, just in the spirit of what we were talking about, concrete is, these are the base materials that we build our world with, and for me in particular, it's always been the fascinating connection. Architecture, engineering, always, everything started in high school. Like, I went to a technical school and we had different shops, and the only shop that I remember is a metal shop, and we were given some simple tasks to make some tools, and I immediately fell for it. The luminosity, the reflective nature of steel and with light, and all of that. And then it was always linked to my love for these professions, or these
inner spark, that inner spark.
Yeah, and I think the witnessing or living in some major urban centers helped me get even further into it. So I'm a happy guy working with this.
We like happy. We like happy. How many of you have been to Taliesin West in their own backyard? Yeah. I mean, the icon of that time frame, Frank Lloyd Wright. And some of us went on a tour last year out there together, and it was interesting because Frank Lloyd Wright brought, the word's not intern, but he brought people out to study with him, and they set up tents and they created art, and I'm like, oh, I know a place like that. So in some way we've maybe carried on a bit of the spirit of what Frank Lloyd Wright was about in inspiring arts through people's hands, and bringing people together to create. And I think that again, nothing speaks more about humanity than our surroundings.
I mean, part of what the success of this venture is.
It's a soft-sided structure now, is what we call it.
Yeah, soft. But you have a love for the architecture, you have the love for the artists, you have the love for the art, and you created this thing that is so successful. I just hope you're always going to be here. So,
we'll find a way.
Yes. Yeah, you mentioned Taliesin and the tour. One of the things that Frank Lloyd Wright talked a lot about and brought in was the beauty. And his real goal, his whole life, was about creating an American expression of art and architecture. So he was practicing in the time when Chicago was being rebuilt. As a young person, it was all copying European stuff, and he just was so frustrated that the Americans aren't doing our own architecture. So he spent his whole life, he was the most published, and he wrote more books than any other architect about this process of American architecture. And part of it was his love for the people, his love for our lifestyle and the freedoms that we have. And it comes through in the art. It comes through in American architecture, and people flock to it. And I think, you mentioned that, because I remember all of those books I read and all of the teachings. I went to Taliesin, so that's where I studied architecture. So part of when I came here from California, that's where I went. And Mrs. Wright was alive, and Wes Peters, his son-in-law, was in charge of the studio. So I had an opportunity to work with these people on the process. And one of the things we always talked about is make it beautiful. It's easy to make something fast, it's easy to make something efficiently, but it takes takes the artist to bring that beauty back into it. And sometimes it's just a painting, sometimes it's just but the whole philosophy of our life here, it's very important that we share that love and that spirit and that freedom. And I just, it never left me. I just love that. I guess that's why I come here.
Hey, I love that. And we love the people that come here, and that's, I mean, it lights up everybody. And you guys have learned so much from the collectors who come through here, and their influence shows in the work that you do year after year, and you listen to them, and you get to be in their homes, and you know, what is that like for you when you get to go deliver the works of art and install them?
Well, it's touching. And so you become a part of their life and part of their, you know, basically something to spend their life around. You know, so. But yeah, one of my favorite architects is Zaha Hadid, and she just was an amazing. After studying her a little bit, and I got a chance to see her body of work. Everything from her wall artwork, sculptural stuff, to her chess table, to her concept car, to all kinds of furniture. And this was all on exhibit in a building that she did up in Michigan, at Michigan State. It's the Eli Broad Museum there. And it's all angular, all in stainless. It's very modern. There's not a right angle anywhere. It's pretty superior, pretty cool, and inspiring for an artist. I'd actually been to Dubai twice for a month each, and I spent a lot of time there and looked at, saw all their buildings just looked super spectacular, and there was something special about each one. And I mean, I think they were producing about 50 buildings a month there or something. They worked super fast. In about 6 months, they had like so many skyscrapers finished between 2 different trips that I went. And of course, they're building a different, code, of course. What really I took note of was just how all these buildings had something special about them, and they were just super extraordinary. I mean, they weren't just a square building. And so that led me into a little bit of a study on Zaha Hadid, and super inspired by her and all of her accomplishments and what she did. She died a little too young, in my opinion, but
it shows in your work too. I mean, your flow and your streamline,
curvilinear,
very, very symbiotic with Zaha Hadid. Yeah.
I love that curvilinear. It's one of my favorite words. Curvilinear. I just made myself forget what I was going to ask, but Carlos, you have traveled all over the world, and you've shared some of that with us. I've been a lot of places. Have you been to Dubai yet?
No.
Okay.
No, not to Paris. No.
Oh, you haven't been to Paris yet?
No, the Paris.
The Far East. Okay. You have to
Paris,
listen
yes.
carefully. Yeah. But has that influenced your work, your travels?
Immensely. Paris, for example, the Eiffel Tower is an example of a massive structure which is done with the only purpose of enchanting people. It doesn't have function. It was for a world fair or something, but if you're standing there or go up, it's an incredible thing. And the purpose, again, doesn't have a purpose.
Experience.
Enchanting.
The purpose was experience.
Experience, right, exactly.
Not necessarily a function.
But it was not so much a function, it's not a bridge. So
The function is the enchanting experience. I love that.
I love, for example, the St. Louis, the art in St. Louis. Every time during my years doing shows around the country that I dropped by St. Louis, I always took pictures, the same pictures from the. Never had time to go up because I was on the road somewhere. But they're one of the little things I used to do in high school. The Washington Monument, the obelisk. Well, that was one of the first things assignment I had in this metal shop way back. And I went to just form the planes and cut, chisel. And that came because when Buenos Aires we have a smaller version of the same thing. Yes. And so again, it's been always integral part of my experience. And I was thinking about something you guys talked about a minute ago, the connection here at the show with our clients and clients with us, and what a special place this is. It offers an experience like no other, in the sense that we can, because of the length of the show, because of we can establish relationships and like I said earlier too, grow together and then enjoy from our part the success and thank to everyone for supporting us, and then for our clients is the experience of having a personal connection with what they have on the walls or on the patios or whatever in the house. That's very unique, and it's something I've learned to appreciate more and more as the years go by. It's a beautiful thing that happened here between all of us.
Amen. Amen. And one of the beautiful things about all of these works of architecture we're talking about and art is how they pay homage to what's around them. And part of what makes the St. Louis Arch so beautiful is the placement, and it's right at the river and the space around, the negative space around it, and any structure that you see that's very integral. But another thing I like to kind of talk about is how we don't have to have a large, magnificent, high-ceiling structure to have art enhance. I mean, my husband and I live in not a 20-foot tall house, but we've managed to build a collection with a scale that's right for that and that complements that. So no matter the size of our space, we can enhance the environment with pieces that speak about us. They speak to us and then about us. So, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say that's part of architecture in general, is all the scale. So we've seen homes from our childhood. Most of us probably grew up in smaller homes, and over the years we've seen, unless you're a French prince or a castle baron person, but the homes have gotten a lot bigger. So we do homes up the street here that have one owner, one resident, but the houses are 30,000 square feet. That's a pretty big expression of an individual's, in this case, wealth. But also they have an expression of art and a desire to share not only that art and architecture with their immediate family, but their friends. So they're designing spaces for friends. And you see a very predominant, there's a famous collector here in town, you walk in his foyer, and he's got this amazing painting of a cowboy with this gun. It startles you when you walk in, and he loves doing stuff like that. So, some of the artists, collectors are looking more for certain things, and what I like abstract as well as pictorial and very photorealistic. So it's a mixed bag. You got to know where to put it. So architecture provides those opportunities. I mean, I love Ryan's work in the inside and in the gardens. Same with Carlos. They just speak so strongly, and in the right hands, you can make a beautiful courtyard, large or small, just explode with life and energy. And of course, lighting helps too. So lighting's a big part of that process.
That's true. I love having a few moments for people to ask questions, either from online or people here. We usually have some people who are not shy, who are willing to ask a question. Or not.
We
have two. Sorry. This is for Carlos. What type of wood do you use, or do you use the same type of wood all the time?
No, I mean I don't. I use different wood. I've been using the wood I got from New York because I got a lot of it, and it's beautiful. So, but now, so I kind of stay with it because it produced in me the same pleasure working with it than 12, 14 years ago when I purchased it. But I also work with, for example, I do a lot of work with charwood. I torch the wood, so I use Douglas fir. This piece here is redwood, so no, I even work with industrial, not even wood. This is ply. The one that is in, I made sculpture even here at the beginning of the show. I used to do it, which is purely industrial. It's not even real wood. I mean, partly real wood, but it's glue
laminate. Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved it. I chiseled it and produced beautiful things. But no, and as a matter of fact, I'm looking to incorporate different kind of wood because, of course, they are so different from each other.
And just think of all of the history you carried forward when you got all that reclaimed wood out of that building. It's so beautiful. The wood that you got from the building in New York, Hoboken, New Jersey.
Well,
sorry.
no, that's because that's just, for example, that wood came from a building that was built in the mid-1800s. So that wood is easily more than 200 years old, maybe 300 years old. And it's something that it becomes more and more valuable because it becomes more and more scarce as time goes by. Yeah, I working precisely with newer wood. The difference is outstanding. It's a whole different experience. And go back to the energy that the physicality, the energy of our work, and sometimes that that shows in the piece. So it's like our input, but then it's the material itself that is saying something to the people. And you don't know exactly what it is, but you know, I stand in front and I'm enchanted, and unfortunately it's been the case for multiple others. So I'm actually looking for, at some point soon, making a trip somewhere far from here, and that's to find all materials to work with. I used to go into Pennsylvania. I used to drive across the Delaware into like metal scrap yards, where I would sign a waiver for liability, and they would let me roam and cut, choose things, and then on the way out, they waited me, and that's how I got a bunch of old steel. When I moved my studio here, I brought 2 trucks. One was with all this old wood, and the other one with all steel. But I'm running out of both of them.
See, in the right hands, anything can become a work of art. Yes.
Ryan, what do you mean when you say you stretch that metal? How do you do that?
So this is one side cut right now. I'll make another template that matches this piece. And then I'm going to cut the 2 pieces in half. The heart will be cut in half. And what I'm going to do is tack the inside curve together. And then I'll put tension between the 2 points on the curve. And that'll pop open to a triangular form, that whole curve on one side. I'll do the same on the other. And I'm using straps and clamps and come-alongs and whatever.
It's very messy work and kind of loud.
And dangerous. So yeah, I'm lucky I still have all my fingers in
And you wear, like both of you, you've got to wear protective gear when you're working with the...
fully suited up.
Yeah. So we're going to try to capture some of that for the story, and each story in the Art Connection also has a video component to it on the digital you can watch, but yes.
Does that work?
Heavy metal, yeah.
Do you have some of the pieces that are in stretch?
Yes. I have some, actually, it's a little obnoxious for me to cut and grind and work with metal in this courtyard, so I've set up a temporary workshop just outside the back gravel area. I sit down at a big table and dropped a container, and so I'm cutting, welding, grinding there, and I have some pieces in progress I can show you.
So using the the north parking lot, the north 40, in his own very own container. We have to contain him, and but his work area is very neat. It's just the work itself is a bit.
I need to stay, out of everybody's breathing zone.
And we won't say this too many times, but I asked him one time how his wife puts up with him with all his grimy clothes, and he famously said,
I wash them.
he just takes them all off before he goes in. And,
You have to change clothes.
But she's a good woman, Janice. Yeah.
Back there in the hat.
Yeah. Cute one. So those are great questions, thank you. And are there any more questions or comments about the work? Okay. Thank you.
Is it on? It is. I was going to say something pithy about how different spaces make me feel. From contemporary, I feel like I need a beach house, I feel like I need a cabin, I need a traditional cottage. But what came to mind as you were talking was something that reflected what happened when we were driving here was we were talking about bad behavior on the road, tragedy and things like that. And in the course of the afternoon, and especially in the course of the afternoon, especially now, I just had this really strong feeling that I wanted to thank you because it's the artists, musicians and artists, art kind that brings so much hope and beauty to the world. And it made me forget about all the ugliness that's out there and that the world really isn't so tragic. There's a lot of hope and beauty. And I thank you guys for it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hand it to Wendy, please. Thank you so much. That means we've met our objective. Our goal is to bring beauty and joy and magic and happiness. Thank you.
I just have a question for Carlos, and I guess having been married previously with a person working with wood and slept with pieces of wood under the bed and on the pillow and everywhere else. Which is great because it's given me an appreciation of wood. And what sort of wood do you like working with in terms of hardwood, softwood? And I'm thinking of when I lived in New Zealand for a very long time, and they discovered a lot of old kauri that was under swamps, and they are now bringing it out for use. And I guess I'm just interested in what kind of woods that you really look for when you're traveling. I know about old woods from old buildings and old structures and whatever, but there's more to wood than just being old and newer.
Yes, and how do I find the materials I work with?
Yeah. And what kind?
Well, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by chance. Hardwood really could be different types. It just has to speak to me in some ways. It has to have a certain volume, has to certain size. It could be small or large, but something is wood that I can see. Most old wood work. Most of any type of old wood, but I look for the colors. I do not add colors to the wood like stains. So any wood I work with, except the char wood. The others, I just kind of expose them or just clean them to see what's inside. What is that, not in plain view when I start with, but with colors or lines or different qualities of it that like me. So it's not like I have a list of things. It's just more, especially with steel. For example, when no steel I can buy and work with, but all steel. There's a fitting, it's again, I was saying earlier, weathering, and that
Character.
initially in New York I used to find it on the street. People will ask me to take away their old tanks, but eventually that kind of stopped. And then I had to go, what I was talking about, going to Pennsylvania to find all steel but the scrap metal yard near me, which would be in Newark, New Jersey, too big, and they don't want a guy like me just walking around. You have to go with a big truck, and they fill it up for you. But I'm like picking for special pieces. Which going to your question is like for me, the more eroded, the more pitted, the more weather, the better. Because when you look at it on the scrapyard, it doesn't say much. But when I started working with it and just expose it, bring it to life, it's just again, it goes back to the energy. It's a lot of energy that the piece speaks. So I just take it away from oblivion and bring it to people's homes in different ways. I'm talking about this, and I have hardly anything with all steel here.
Well, so you like character.
But so now in Arizona, I had to change my approach, and until I get all steel from somewhere else, I'm creating my own texture by welding, by cutting, by hammering. So
Yeah, I think you said everything's too new in Arizona.
I have a question for Ryan.
Sure.
Given the reflective nature of your work, when you're doing a commissioned piece, how do you do you take into consideration the surrounding architecture, or just because it's going to reflect the environment that it's in?
Well, sure. It's certainly something that plays, whether it's an older style or a new modern style of a home. The reflection definitely is going to interact with anything around it. So I feel comfortable, juxtaposition with both angles. And it's also going to interact with the season, the time of day, the sky, and or any other plants or anything else. Or there's color in a painting nearby.
We get some very fun photographs of reflective pieces, or reflection happening in his pieces. We do have to be a little bit careful of placement though, because it does conduct heat.
Yeah, you have to take in part the reflection. If it were to be directed where the reflection would hit, let's say, a bunch of dry grass, it's possible it could do something to it and catch on fire. So I try to have maybe it's placed in a pool or an area with concrete or gravel, or which there's a lot of gravel here in Arizona, so most of the time we're okay. But a final placement, back to your question, does play a role to which way the sun's going to be, and I'll try to get the least amount of reflection on the placement.
And I'm going to add to this because he's got some pieces that are among the beautiful trees and natural flowering, I call them palo verdens and all the mesquites and things. They just come to life. I just love your pieces because they just reflect, they don't have to be out in full sun. He has them hidden in little gardens, and they're just really amplifying everything that's in there. I just love that about your
Thank
work.
you.
Yeah.
It's it'll just the reflections will morph and change.
Yeah, it's a true homage to what's around it as well. So talking about placement. So excellent questions. I don't know, it's probably, we have 2 minutes. If there's any more questions. I'm thrilled with our panel today. I can't thank you enough. Craig,
Thank you.
Thank you for passing. Carlos, we adore you, and Ryan, thank you so much. The Powerhouse, and
Thanks
we
for having
really
us.
encourage you, if you haven't already seen their work up close, go take a stroll through the courtyard and at the end of the north tent, facing the beautiful McDowell Mountains. Enjoy, and thank you so much, and we will look forward to seeing you next week.